Right now that Councillor Frost has a hard time counting, but we'll. Understand how that goes. I'm assuming that our other council members will be here as well, although Miss Ripley did call and say that she is not feeling well today and asked to be excused this evening, so if there's no problems there, we will excuse her, and I'll have to do that at the regular meeting as well, so. All right, so for the record, we are missing this evening Councillor Hart, Councillor Beeler, and Councillor Ripley, who is excused. I'm assuming that Councillor Hart will be here in about 3 seconds, because there she is. And I haven't heard anything from Councillor Beeler yet, so. All right, so we've got a lot of things on this agenda, so some of this stuff we're going to whip through. Some of the stuff I think is going to be really easy. Oh, there it is. Councillor Beeler has requested an excused absence. I'm sure glad you're there, Chief Lehman. So any objection to excusing Councillor Beeler? All right, so he is excused as well. All right. First item on here for us to talk about Disability Independence Day Proclamation. Approve a resolution proclaiming July 26, 2024 as Disability Independence Day. And Ms. Frost, were you the one that brought this forward? Councillor Vasquez, okay.
It's actually you.
No, you didn't independent.
But this is disability.
Oh, okay. I read that.
Well, whoever brought it forward, do you want to
Very good.
enlighten us just a little bit? I have the proclamation all written. I mean, is there any debate on this one that we have to talk about, or?
I think it's pretty straightforward, right?
Hey, she's online. Great. So Miss Ripley is here virtually. Councillor Ripley. Okay, well, if there's no debate on it, I think it's probably moved forward pretty quickly. All right, and so item B then, correction of resolution 2024-16, approve a resolution authorizing the distribution of revolving loan funds to Motova Enterprises LLC, doing business as Bob's Drive-In. So what happened here is when we first approved this revolving loan, we approved it in the name of the person who applied for the loan. And we're later advised that that's not a good idea, that we approve that in the name of the business, not in the name of individuals. I think we've corrected one other of these before. So any discussion on this item? Deputy Mayor's ahead of you.
Are we just changing the name?
We are.
This is just a corrective action like the previous one that we did.
Does that answer your question, Ms. Hart?
Exactly right.
Okay. All right, further questions on that one? All right, so item C on here where it says that 6-year transportation public hearing, that was typed in there as a result of over exuberance by our city clerk and does not pertain to this particular study session. She cornered me as I walked in and said, don't do that. So we won't. Item D, and this relates to the special meeting that was held by council a few weeks ago, the 25 through 2030 6-year transportation improvement plan. Approve a resolution adopting the 25 through 2030 6-year transportation improvement program. I don't know, Chief, is there anything that needs to be added to this, or?
Mr. Sanchez, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Oops. I don't think we have anything to add to this other than just going over if there's any questions. Stephanie with HLA is here to go over that.
All right, council, is there any questions for Ms. Ray?
Just a quick one. Has anything changed from the time we met?
No, all the same.
Other questions? I listened to the meeting. It was pretty thorough. I think you guys had questions there that you got answered, so. Excellent. Okay, so we can move forward with that. Item E, Sunnyside Climate Element Task Order. Approve a resolution authorizing the interim city manager to sign a task order with HLA Engineering and Land Surveying Incorporated to develop a climate element for the comprehensive plan. Okay, I haven't heard this explained, so I would love to hear this one outlined a little bit.
Be happy to elaborate. Trevor Martin actually presented this item late last year when we were applying for money through the Department of Commerce. So Washington State passed House Bill 1181. which as a product of that, every city within Washington State that has to be compliant with the Growth Management Act has to do a climate change element as part of their comprehensive plan update. So a comprehensive plan update is many chapters. This will be a chapter added on to the comp plan. And most Washington State requirements are unfunded mandates. This one is actually a funded mandate. So when Trevor took this in front of council, it was to apply for Department of Commerce money in the amount of $150,000. So that money, the agreement has been executed with Commerce. That money is here and available. And the 100,000 of it is for us to actually develop that climate change element. We would have brought this kind of before to you several months ago. There has been some discussion with city staff about staff actually wanting to do some of that work. And now with planning staff kind of not available, so it falls into our purview, if you will. The effort actually has already started, and I think some of you might have already know or are on a climate element advisory committee. It's already met one time, and so that's part of the community engagement portion of this plan. And the plan itself follows a very well scripted outline from Department of Commerce. So the actual goal of this is to develop goals and policies that the city can work toward in the future, leverage funding for. So some examples would be like walkability city or bike ped program, or coming up ways to reduce the heat island effect, like putting in street trees. So those are some examples that can come out of this planning effort. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Council, any questions? Go ahead, Ms. Fausto. Ms. Fausto has the floor.
Thank you for recognizing me, Mr. Mayor. So yeah, just a question. I'm glad that y'all have already met. Environmental justice is definitely something that should be invested in, and I hope, that whatever this group does coming together is definitely rude efforts into definitely making an impact here in our community. So I went through the HLA website and I was looking to see if y'all had actually any experience in dealing with environmental resilience or climate resiliency and environmental justice efforts. And I didn't see anything, but please enlighten me if I missed something. I know that y'all have transportation engineering, utility engineering, planning, construction management, and y'all do consulting around that. So I'm just curious I'm trying to understand how HLA, how it landed with HLA. I guess I know that y'all help with our grant and our grant management and the reporting, technical assistance. But how is it that maybe we didn't try to look for another agency or organization that had a little bit more, or maybe a lot more, environmental justice or climate resiliency background?
Your question is good. And so know that this is a brand new requirement. It started in 2023 with the Washington State. And every city right now is in the same position that you are. So nobody has done this. Nobody has this actual plan available. And so what the plan does is Department of Commerce has already set out an outline with very specific modules that we have to follow. Most of the data is derived from University of Washington that has done an extensive amount of research. And so in Yakima County, YVCOG is helping out with these plans, as are we. So we're currently doing 4 of them for different municipalities in Yakima County. And so with this, our experience, we routinely do comprehensive plans, which are major planning efforts continuing to stem from some of these Department of Commerce requirements. So just know, I guess this is a new plan for everybody. We do Title VI compliance. We do environmental justice as it relates to municipal agencies with public works primarily. And, we do planning documents where it relates to climate resiliency for municipalities as needed. So, so far, there hasn't been a whole lot of money out there for municipalities to really get into kind of the weeds, I guess, as you will. This is the first major effort for just about every city.
Okay, and I also saw that this bill also has a technical assistance component to it. So I know that they also offer guidance and training, rulemaking support, webinar and workshops. Is this something that y'all also are going to be able to leverage within the committee?
Yep, correct.
Oh,
And we actually, as a company, have sat in on most of those webinars so far. And so that information is absolutely invaluable, as the plan develops, it is an interface with Department of Commerce. There actually is a grant manager and a manager from Department of Commerce that's assigned to this particular grant to assist in the process.
perfect. Yeah, I feel like we have a lot of work cut out. I was canvassing over the weekend and there was, I mean, just even the need of there being trees and being more trees like around the community is definitely important. But just even before I finish and wrap up, I mean, just a couple of things that I want to throw out there. I mean, the Lower Yakima Valley, according to the EPA, we're living in the 80th to 100 percentile for several pollution indicators, making us one of the worst areas in the country for air pollution. And this is including Los Angeles. And a lot of it has to do with agricultural emissions like fertilizers, pesticides, and, dairy operations. So just something to keep in mind. And also when, when we're speaking about environmental justice, also recognizing the water pollution crisis that we have going on, even just in our neighboring community of Mapton and even in Outlook, where they're having to truck water because, the water is potable, even just in nearby map or Outlook because of the high nitrate levels that are found. So just something to consider as we're maneuvering this space. I hope that the work is, deeper than super, surface level and performative level type of work.
All right, thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Is there a deadline to get this accomplished?
Yes, there is. And that's part of the dilemma at the moment is, so this money was available in 2023 and it's in the 2023 to 2025 biennium. So this funding absolutely has to be used by June 30th of 2025 or it goes away. So in the task order, for our efforts, we're looking about $100,000, as a hourly contract. And there's remaining $50,000 in there. So what Commerce allows is any monies remaining after the element is actually prepared and approved by Department of Commerce can be used for implementation of a goal or policy. So if it's decided that the city wants to pursue a bike ped plan or looking at bicycle lanes throughout the city or looking at that a tree scaping plan throughout the city, that planning document can be paid for with that remaining $50,000. We can't do an implementation, so we can't actually do a construction, but we can do a planning type effort to meet that goal or policy if it's defined in that climate change element.
Okay. That answer your question, sir?
Yes, it does.
Okay, Ms. Hart.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you had a question. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Who created our comprehensive plan? Who usually creates that? I know that was 2023, the latest one.
Yeah, so your comprehensive plan has had a difficult time, I guess you could say. It was with a former planner, Jamie Eiling, for quite some time. And to the point where the city actually lost GMA compliance for a time. Then the city had another planner named Aaron. Aaron attempted to finish it up. And then you had another planner named Mike Shuttleworth, who eventually came in to complete the comprehensive plan, have it approved by Commerce, and then the city was back in GMA compliance. So with that, the city has generally taken the lead on the city's comprehensive plan. Though with that said, for us, we have done like the transportation element and several of the actual tasks associated with it. So not discussed today, but probably next time, there is money right now to also update your comprehensive plan. And so that's in the 2024 to 2026 biennium. So we'll be back to talk about that.
Okay, Ms. Hart.
Just on that same note, there is a deadline on the comprehensive plan, and it seems like several times, as you mentioned, through the different folks who have been involved in it. I think that there was some work starting on it during Mr. Martin's time here as the executive director community development and so forth. He was working on it, I think.
Yes, there were two outstanding items when Trevor came to be the new planner after Mike Shuttleworth. So Mike Shuttleworth had actually done the plan. There's some accessory documents that's associated with GMA compliance, and it's the Growth Management Act, which falls with development regulations. So Trevor had to update the development regulations, have them approved by city council, and then submit them to Department of Commerce.
So that portion is,
Yeah, it's completely done. Mhm. And just to add a little bit more info, the way this works, so the climate change element, Commerce purposely came out with this funding in the 2023 to 2025 biennium to complete this climate change element, knowing that they were going to require the periodic update of the comprehensive plan from 2024 to 2026. So in Commerce's planning, the idea was to get climate change elements done and then get the comprehensive plan update done. So every city in Washington State is working on those two documents at the moment.
Okay, Ms. Fausto.
So just for clarification, out of the 150,000 that we're getting from Commerce, 100,000 of that is going to HLA
Correct.
to help us create the plan, execute the plan.
So the plan will be it'll be a chapter onto the comprehensive plan, and it will have list then all the goals and policies that come out of the outreach effort, both with public outreach and then also with the committee that I think several of you are involved in. And that's an ending point then for the actual climate change element. Now, the remaining $50,000 that we're not using can be used by the city to actually do an implementation plan that stems from one of those goals and policies.
Mm.
And just as an aside, council, but still related to this, the committee that I believe, Ms. Fausto, you are the council representative on.
No, I'm not. It's Counselor Vasquez.
Really? Okay, I thought I saw your name on the list, but I may have been reading somewhere else. At any rate, that committee exists. I believe Sydney put that committee together. However, they have not been officially appointed by council. They need to come before council. They need to get their applications in and have not yet done so. So we're waiting to get them approved by council so that they can be up and running and officially doing their work in the official capacity. I know they met at least once, if not twice. Once, okay. And so, and I guess they can do that, but they do need to be appointed officially by council and approved. So we need to get applications in from everybody that's going to be on that, every civilian, that didn't sound like the right word, every community member who's going to be part of that so that we can move forward. And I think it had a due date of what, May 30 or June 30 or something like that.
Yeah, so Sydney wanted to get a big group together. That way we could talk and then kind of go from there.
Okay.
and Bring it back to council.
Okay, I know, Lucia, you got the forms out to encourage them to get their applications in, correct?
I believe city clerk sent those out to the.
Okay, you did that. And I saw a response from at least one person who was saying, hey, I got questions, so.
Good deal.
All right, further questions on this topic?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So I'm looking at your breakdown here. The first one is Climate Policy Advisory Team Coordination. That pretty much is like get the committee together. I mean, isn't it usually just get volunteers and get the committee together? And here it says, we'll be paying you $23,000 to do that. Another one is plan and facilitate public engagement. What are your plans to facilitate public engagement?
So thank you for that question. So just to, and this maybe tags on to Councilmember Fausto's question is, so this effort is being headed up by a planner in our office, Joseph Calhoun, who Trevor left to take his position at City of Yakima. So Joseph came to the private side. So he is facilitating all this. He is actually coming down here every meeting that you have to help facilitate the discussion with the committee and to talk about then the goals and policies of where Department of Commerce is trying to go to kind of try to, I guess, steer this the discussion. And then for our public outreach and engagement, we typically are actually present and doing surveys and Survey Monkeys and being at community events, talking to the community as a whole about this type of effort and what the community wants to see for climate change.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, one more question.
One more question.
Yeah, so are y'all gonna be with, I guess, as technical, with us, providing technical support throughout the entire year until, the monies have to be spent, which was sometime in 2025?
Yeah, so actually this effort starts now. It already started. The monies have to be spent by 2025. That's the last time that Commerce will reimburse on this particular type of money. And so the schedule that we have that was submitted to Commerce, so there's quite a lot of application information, this is a 1-year effort. It's going to take a while to get through all of the requirements for Department of Commerce, plus incorporating all the community engagement and comments and everything that we receive from the committee to put this together into a solid plan. So it's actually quite a robust planning effort.
Yeah, I've gone through just like Counselor, or sorry, excuse me, Deputy Mayor just went through the outline and just listing out the efforts. I mean, I still think it's too much money that we're giving HLA to provide technical support when we're gonna have a climate committee spearheading the efforts as volunteers.
I'm trying to figure out where the problem is here, Ms. Frausto.
Well, we're giving HLA $100,000.
That's correct.
Right? $50,000 of that is going back to community, so we could actually do implementation, right? And so
Not exactly. 100,000 goes to HLA for the work that they do. There will be a remaining 50,000 that is available for us to use for implementation.
that's
A total of
conducting
150,000.
surveys, and that's.
They're in charge of
She
running all
just
of that.
listed out exactly, so I understood exactly what she listed out, that HLA is going to be spearheading. I just don't, I don't know, I don't, the money that we're putting into HLA is just really not aligning for me.
So are you saying that the volunteers, the community committee would be able to do that? Is that what you envision here?
I mean, going off of what we're saying, I mean, it's surveying, and if we're gonna be in community events, doing surveys, and we have a whole committee allocated to that. Can we put more of that $100,000 back into community efforts is kind of what I'm trying to assess here.
Okay.
So originally, this $100,000, it was generally split equally between city staff. So city staff, as in planners, would be Sydney and Trevor. We're going to do this effort. And without that planning, and this is a real planning effort for city staff, without that position being here, it was decided by both Trevor and Sydney for it to come back to us. So that's why we are here where we are. Keep in mind, most cities, especially the ones that we're writing plans for currently, have like 1 member or 2 members of a climate advisory group at the city. Sunnyside is unique, and Sydney did a great job of trying to push it through, but most cities don't have that engagement already set up. So for us, it really is, it's writing the plan, it's getting the data, it's compiling it, and it's meeting all of the Department of Commerce checklists and threshold. So I guess that I don't know how else to answer that other than if the climate board can check off any of those items from Department of Commerce. I mean, we'd be happy to relook at our scope of services.
One of the things that I've found over the years is that our volunteers really do an excellent job at the area that they're able to do, but it has been extremely helpful to have people who are more knowledgeable in the subject matter in the application process. And that's where we as volunteers can run into problems there, because we may not understand some of the steps that need to be done. Now, a Survey Monkey, that sort of thing, I believe that's probably something that's fairly simple. I've never had to conduct one, but I've seen people say, oh, I'll do that in a minute. So it doesn't seem like it's that complicated, but I think a lot of the application and a lot of those forms, if you've not had to fill one out, there's an awful lot of information required, and sometimes it's research, and sometimes it's knowledge, subject matter knowledge, sometimes it's who you know, which is why we tend to employ someone like HLA. If we don't have the staff member to do that, Because they will have the individuals on staff to be able to answer those questions and solve that in a more timely manner than what we can as volunteers. And the other thing that we deal with volunteers is we're dealing with work schedules. These folks come in voluntarily, but they do have full-time jobs, they have families, they've got other activities, and so we're asking a lot of their time to require them to fill out these forms and do this research. So I guess that would be my concern with your comments, Ms. Frausto. I'm not saying that it's impossible to do that, but it does raise a couple of concerns in my mind. Mr. Deputy Mayor.
And I understand also where you're coming from, and it's a lot of money, but right now we just don't have those people in place. We don't have an economic development director, we don't have a planner. And I just wouldn't want to see our staff be overwhelmed with trying to pick this up right now. I mean, it's a grant, they're giving us the money, so that's what I have to say.
So which is why we're wanting to contract with HLA to take on that burden of work.
Correct.
Otherwise, we would be using city staff to do that. We're just in a kind of a no man's land right here.
That was the original plan, was city staff was going to conduct half of the workload. Trevor did originally push all the heavy lifting onto us, which was the research. Part of, meeting Department of Commerce's requirements is we have to do a thorough review of all your ordinances, the municipal code, make recommendations that includes environmental justice and climate capacities as it affects greenhouse gases. And so there's quite a lot of behind the scenes work that happens in addition to the community outreach. And so Trevor and Sydney were originally going to do all the community engagement and the outreach and the surveys. And so this is exactly how we got to where we are.
Go ahead, Ms. Vasquez.
And so just from everything that I gathered, so now being part of the Climate Resilience Committee, we will have access to HLA whenever we have questions or we feel stuck. Would we be able to just email you guys or give you guys a call and for you guys to be kind of like leading us and showing us at no extra cost?
Yep, it's all included in this task order. And that's the point, is that we're engineers, but we're also planners too. I mean, there's no point in developing a planning document that's going to sit on the shelf. We want something that you can utilize and continue to use, well, after the document is done. And the only way that's possible is just having great communication and outreach. So yes, you can reach out to us at any time.
Okay, that way I could also let the group know and we don't feel we have boundaries with you guys.
Yeah, no, there no boundaries. And in fact, in this type of plan, the more engagement and the more communication, this is going to make the plan better.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's keep moving on here. Item F, intergovernmental local stormwater agreement. Approve a resolution authorizing the interim city manager to execute an agreement with Yakima County, the cities of Sela, Union Gap, and Sunnyside to continue to participate in an intergovernmental local agreement to cooperate in compliance with the federal NPDES Phase 2 stormwater regulations. Mr. City Manager.
Turn this over to Mr. Sanchez.
Mr. Sanchez.
Thank you. So what we have here is something that we've had for a while, since 2009. We've had an interlocal agreement with Yakima County, which includes Sela, Union Gap, and Sunnyside. And so what we do with this is try to meet some of these requirements of the permit. And some of those are really what we share is public outreach. There is a group of through Franklin County Stormwater Conservation District. They go out to schools and they do some public outreach to children in the grades between 3rd grade and 5th grade. And so there's a contract that they have with Yakima County that is then distributed between the cities, and that's based on population is how they break down the percentage that each city will pay for the fees of public outreach. We used to be 22%. Now that's gone up just because of the cost of their fees. So we're at 25% where other cities as well have gone up. So that's really what we share. The other part is obviously having engagement with these cities as part of also the NPDES permit, where as cities, we work together like at the Central Washington State Fair. We have a booth there where we all share different nights to do public outreach for stormwater. And then we participate in other things that we can work together with. There's also meetings between all cities that are included in the ILA to kind of go over permit requirements and work together. So that's what this is. And so this ILA would be for another 5 years. And typically, that's what they've all been. This would expire in July of 2029. Any questions?
Council, questions? Go ahead, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
So it was on the stormwater plan that's on the website, the Sunnyside website. I was kind of glancing at it and it says that in 2019, the ILA expired and it was agreed the city would no longer operate as a coal permittee. Is that different from this?
Yes, that's a different part. The interlocal agreement versus that, the stormwater plan that you see on there is a plan that is another part of an element of the stormwater permit. So every city, every year has to update and post it on the website by end of May, a stormwater plan. And that is what we do as a city, just for Sunnyside, how we maintain our stormwater system. This is more public outreach and then the element of having engagement with these cities that are part of this. So it used to be, I think what you're referring to, where Yakima County used to do the main reporting, where now every city, every city or jurisdiction does its own. But we still have an ILA with them.
Mhm.
Okay, further questions? Go ahead.
Not a
sir.
question, but just a comment, I guess. I mean, they're asking for 3% more for public outreach, right? And I think whoever's doing it over there needs to kind of pick it up. Up until 2 years ago, I really didn't know what the little fishy was by the storm drain. I had to ask, somebody, and they explained it to me. I know you said that they go to the local elementaries and the local schools, but, I think educating more of the public, the parents, right? Because the parents are the ones that are washing their cars out there and letting, chemicals go to the stormwater. Or even pouring, I think it was during the city tour. And one of you guys said they used to, they pour pozole down the drain, I think if they were to do a little bit better on the public outreach, it may make sense.
So to go on that, so this is what we have together with these. What you're talking about, that's what we do in interlocal or ourselves. So the public outreach that we do, which is also part of this, like you said, the little stickers that you see on the storm drains, that's something that we did as part of the element for public outreach. We started that, we went through the whole city, and obviously we're always going to continue because there's new developments. And then as far as like Cinco de Mayo, we do our own public outreach where we're reaching the community, we're reaching to the adults. This is something outside of all that we're doing. Also is because we take those numbers. So when the teachers that go around to the grades of 3rd through 5th, they give us a report. We take that report of all those students and the number of students and the schools that they went to, then we all share those numbers to our annual stormwater report. So that's what we do together. But at the city level, we do that outreach. We also have flyers at the stormwater. We did through a different program where we have the car wash. Their flyers they give people. We also do we have flyers for landscapers. We have flyers for any other illicit discharge. So we already do that at that level. This is just what we're talking about here is in the ILA.
Okay, further questions? Ms. Rousseau.
Is there any statistics showing where the outreach is happening and how many people actually have been hit or have been in contact with to share out all of this information? in the
That's,
past?
that's where the schools, yeah, they give us a report
The schools do?
twice a year. Yep, they give us for the first half of the year, then they'll give us the other one for the second half of the year, and it'll have all the schools that they reached and the number of students per class. And then we take that information and we upload it into our annual stormwater report. So annually, Yakima County will provide that to all these cities that are part of the ILA. Good.
All right. Ready for the next item? Further questions? All right, moving on. Complete Streets Award, approve a resolution authorizing a budget amendment for the Washington State Transportation Improvement Board Citywide Pedestrian Improvements Project. Chief,
Mr. Sanchez and Miss Ray, it looks like.
all right.
I'll pass it over to HLA, Stephanie.
Thank you. So what this is earlier this year, the city received an award for Complete Streets to do ADA improvements by schools. TIB awarded half the money, so about $500,000. That bid opening happened earlier this month on July 15th. And you can see the city received 5 bids. Relatively competitive, bidder number 1, bidder number 2, much closer than the other 3. So the apparent low bidder is Ascent Foundation, and they are approximately $26,000 over available funding. And so we were able to work with TIB to negotiate an increase in the award amount about half of what the overage was. So why we're coming back to council is when we had initiated the fuel tax agreement, so the actual agreement with TIB, it had a set amount of money in there for a budget amendment. And now that with the overage of approximately $12,000, we would exceed that. So we come back to council each and every time that budget is in excess to ask for council's authorization. So by when we get to into the meeting, what we're going to do is ask you for approval to accept the budget amendment, which would allow us then to award the contract to the contractor and they can begin work.
Ms. Hart.
And again, this money is already there. I mean, we already have the money to use. This is just a budget amendment because of the overage.
Yep, correct.
And isn't there a deadline on when we want to have this project done?
This particular funding program was a unique opportunity for TIB where the money had to be designed and constructed within the same year. So this construction project has to be designed by December 31st or the money goes away.
Right, okay, and also, don't we have to also do it in a timely fashion as around when schools are in or out?
Yeah, we were trying to monopolize on the summer. And the way current construction is going and the days on this project will be about a week and a half to 2 weeks into the start of the new school year. So we'll impact schools slightly for those 2 weeks. We have told the contractor they need to develop a phasing plan so that there is always a way into the school. They can't just, wipe them all out and leave no access.
Okay. All right, so this is just we just need a little bit more money.
Yeah, and sorry, the money for the budget amendment would be coming from the city's transportation benefit district, which is set aside for this type of work.
And if I'm correct, there is money there for this.
As I understand it, yes, there is.
Just asking,
Without Ms. Warner here, I can't 100% answer that question.
well, let's say there is. Because I believe that there
There
is,
is.
so.
Right, and every time we have a change in the budget and a change in allotment, we do have to approve a budget amendment in order to
Mhm.
cover that because we do have to keep a balanced budget on file all the time. And so that there's adjustments, we've got to make those necessary changes. So further questions on this item?
I had a question.
Go ahead, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Do we ever negotiate with bidders?
No, because it's public procurement. You can't do that.
Gotcha.
Nice try.
It's a very different world.
We
Thought
always-
I'd try.
We always
Yeah.
want to.
The only negotiation you can do is to remove elements from the project. So instead, you'd have to reduce the actual scope of work.
All right, next item. Item H, Transportation Improvement Board Arterial Preservation Program Funding Application. Approve a resolution authorizing the interim city managers to submit a funding application to the Arterial Preservation Program offered by the Transportation Improvement Board. Mr. City Manager.
Ms. Ray.
Thank you again. I just want to have a general comment with council. So we have three of these. There's proposing to do 3 applications to TIB. All 3 of them are going to be due August 9th. I just want to be cognizant that there is a larger item for discussion later on in the council. So, which is the pump track. If you would like to leave this for the council meeting, I can explain it relatively well to allow discussion on the pump track, or if you'd like me to work through these 3 items, I can.
Council, are we willing to skip ahead on on this agenda? And
I think that's a good idea considering how long the work study agenda is. And the other is a brand new thing for us to talk about.
Okay, I'm okay with that.
all right, so without objection, we'll move forward and we'll allow you to discuss that during the regular meeting. So what Ms. Ray is talking about is item K, Recreation and Conservation Office, pump track grant application. Approve a resolution amending, authorizing the interim city manager to apply for a youth athletic facilities grant with the Recreation and Conservation Office to construct a pump track at Sunnyview Park. So council, if you remember a few months ago, we were approached with the idea of a pump track, which is basically a bicycle facility. And can be used for a lot of other things as they explained it to us. And we authorized as council this individual to apply for the grant. Found out later that the grant has to be worded in a very specific way. And so we needed to change the language. That has since morphed into something even bigger. What we're talking about immediately is to change the grant application so that they can apply for this grant. We hadn't authorized, I don't think, anything further than applying for this grant.
That's correct.
And so go ahead, Ms. Ray, and take it from there.
Well, I will try to answer council's questions. Know that this came upon us very suddenly last week, and that every member of staff was involved over a small 2-day effort to try to understand what this application is. And so what our CO is requiring is that city council approve a new resolution or amend a new resolution which amends the previous resolution using very specific wording that's approved by our CO. And in doing so, again, every member of staff became involved on this pump track. And by approving the resolution, you'll see in here, all the expenditures are zeros. So if this project is awarded money, it has to come back to council for approval. Currently, there's about $550,000 listed in donations, and that's one of the points that if for a reason any of those donations don't come to happen, by being the proponent, the city could be responsible for that money. There was also a little bit of a change in this application from the original application. The pump track is much bigger. It's about 4 acres, and it will be taking out 2 of the ball fields at Sunnyview Park. So quite a little bit of a difference scope of what was originally presented to council. Again, we've been asked by RCO to do this resolution. The risk to council at the moment by approving the resolution is relatively minimal, in that if awarded money, it has to come back to council for accepting of the award.
Council questions? Sorry.
I have a question there.
ahead, Ms.
This was a project that came from the community to the council seeking a grant. Is that not?
That
right?
is correct.
The
This
Rotary,
individual,
I think it
this
was-
individual came to council asking to do this, and Rotary is involved. They have pledged a certain amount of money to support this project. In my conversations with this individual, he has reiterated over and over again that the city will be not responsible for any of the funding of this. There's no guarantee of that, but that is the proposal that he's putting together. This individual is not the contractor, so he's not going to be the one building this project. Right now, he's the one getting the grant. So What happened, what made this a little more urgent is the deadline was last week, and so he was hoping that we could have that at our special meeting. However, staff managed to get an extension, so that took that urgency off of last week, so he's got until, I think, tomorrow to get this properly done. But again, he not only has he been in contact with everyone on staff, he's also called me several times, so he's brought me into this as well. I don't know anything about pump tracks. I rode a bicycle when I was a kid and haven't since. I found engines and no longer need to pedal. But that's beside the point. I think this is a fantastic project, should it get approved and come to be. It's a great activity for kids, gets them out of the house, gets them off of devices, gives them something besides, they're not, everybody's a soccer player, not everybody's a Cal Ripken player, not everybody likes all that stuff, not everybody's into skating. But gives another option for kids to do, which I think is a fantastic thing. But I don't want to get the city on a hook for something that we're not budgeting for, that as council, we haven't as a body, we haven't decided to do.
So,
So, sorry.
so then what we're looking for here is just an authorization to apply for this grant. But that's all the city's.
Correct. Yep, that would be the only action for city council tonight, is just to approve the amended resolution. There was a resolution that was done previously with Trevor, and so all this does is amend that language to meet the RCO requirement. And at that point, RCO would review the application, and if funding should come out of this application effort, then that would have to go back to council.
Right, we have to approve it as a body. Mr. Deputy Mayor.
So you say there's about $500,000 worth of donated pledges. And if we get approved for it and it comes back to the city and they don't really have that, the city's on the hook for it?
Well, only if we, I think, and
That's where we would deny the funding.
Yeah.
We would say that the funding hasn't lined up for our portion of the match. We're not going to accept the grant, and then they'll go next in line for whoever missed the opportunity for the grant and award it to them. So this is by no means obligates us to put money into the project. Yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense. And I think if I read it correctly, they would have 3 years to build.
I believe that's correct.
Yeah, they won't even see the funding for a year. So.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Ms. Frausto.
Question, can y'all explain to me how, I know there's the, I know, Mr. Mayor, you just mentioned that this isn't gonna cost the city any money, but when we're giving off 4 acres and when 2 baseball fields are going to be taken out, isn't that a form of asset that we're giving as well?
It is, but the pump track becomes ours as well. So the pump track becomes our asset when this is over. He's just, this gentleman is a proponent for these types of tracks, and so he's found the funding and he has written the grant. The city is the one applying, not him. So the city's the one that gets awarded the money, not him. So it's a city asset.
Okay,
And we will own the track after it's,
We're not giving him property to build his own track and he doesn't profit on it or anything.
we're gonna own it.
right.
The city would own it.
It's our park, so yeah. Is that right?
Right, we're not relinquishing anything.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Deputy
And
Mayor.
also those fields, they're not being used right now. So, I mean, this gives a perfect opportunity to use those fields for something.
It does give a different set of options, and I think it's, it's, like I said, I think it's kind of a cool idea. But I want to make sure that we're not getting stuck for something that we can't afford or that we're not quite ready for. I mean, if we can find the funding to do it and line up the contractors to do it, and there's no money out of pocket, I love it when it works that way.
For whatever reason, and we do get stuck, you guys will tell us.
Yes, we'll be very much keeping track of this one as it comes to fruition, and the timeline is correct. The money actually will not become available until July of 2025. Working out a schedule with the participant applicant, it seemed that the track would actually not be complete until early 2026. So we'll have a little bit of time.
Cool.
Okay, further questions, Mr. Deputy Mayor?
Do you know when they would announce that, say we do get the grant, and how much time we have to accept it and the other person, I guess, show proof of the money?
I don't know that right off the top of my head. Oh, Earl does.
So from what I heard so far is that we would know by the end of October this year who gets awarded the funding. If we do get the funding awarded, obviously at that point, it'll come back to council and you would decide whether you want to move forward with that or not.
All right. Further questions on this item?
No, my only hesitation is that, I mean, the last time that we had a discussion about this, we had, this room here full of community members, pleading for the city for soccer fields and the construction and the development of our soccer fields, because majority of our community is invested in soccer, and many people that I've come to don't really know what a pump track is. So I think I even asked Trevor this, how the assessment for the needs assessment was made, and I don't think they had really gone out to do that. So that's my reluctancy here. But thank you for the clarification around the land usage. I was also kind of confused around that. But that's just more of a comment than having a question.
Okay. Very good. Thank you for everyone. So just real briefly, we've got two more items on the agenda. One of them is a discussion on fireworks, and one of them is camping at Central Park. The camping at Central Park is Miss Ripley's item, but I told her we were going to go ahead and talk about it because we have other issues coming up with Central Park use. And so we need to discuss that. But if there's no objection, I would like to talk about those last two items when we're in the regular meeting and we've got more members of the community here. I know there's been a lot of community feedback, especially on the fireworks question. And I think there's a lot of people out there who really want to hear what council has to say in response to how the 4th of July went and the fireworks and the days surrounding the 4th of July. And so I think also that our fire chief and our police chief have some comments to say on that are pertinent there as well. So if there's no objection, we can talk about that at the regular meeting. That's on the agenda for that. So, all right. So if there's no objection, we'll adjourn this meeting and we'll take a bit of a break and come back together at 6:30 in regular meeting. No objection? We are adjourned.
3:30 in the morning, a couple of nights, that went till, 2:30 at least on few other nights, but it was almost 4 nights, almost 5 on Sunday. And it was loud and it was, some of that was not fireworks. So, I'm just not a fan of it. If there's a vote in the future, I vote no. Second thing I wanted to talk about was that intersection of Edison and Fifth, right by Varietal. If you are heading on Fifth Street to Safeway, say, or crossing the street, trying to pull out, next to Varietal, it is dangerous. This is probably my 5th or 6th time talking about it, bringing it up at council or at planning commission. If the truck's parked right in front of Varietal, just parked sideways, you literally have to pull out into the middle of the street before you can see if there is a car coming or not coming. It's dangerous. If you don't believe me, take a drive yourself. It just scares me. It's an accident waiting to happen. Third is the HLA, and the grant with the, climate. I was on that meeting. We were there for approximately 2 hours. It literally took about that long for us to all wrap our heads around it and figure it out and understand it. I didn't get your name, but she explained everything very well. If I could just say one thing, I know you're going to talk about it tonight. That 50,000 is money that has to be spent, and if I'm wrong, please correct me. But we basically, Joseph gave us some homework to do, and we have to come up with a document. That document basically needs to have verbiage in it so that if we apply for grants later, which is the money that we would be getting, it needs to be in there. So if it's a bike path, if it's trees, if it's something to do with the air control, those things need to be in that document so that when we apply for grants, that word is in there and we qualify. So that was all I had to say, but thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, next name on my list, Kathleen Rogers.
Good evening, Kathleen Rogers from Sunnyside, Grandview. I've been a long time since I've been up here. My husband was part of the planning commission at one time, and I enjoyed coming to those meetings and listening to what was going on with things that most people don't even know is going on in the streets and building of Sunnyside. My biggest concern is the fireworks, as you said. My mother's 98, lives at home. I have caregivers. All through that time, from the 2nd to the 6th, my mother didn't get any sleep. It's not only the fireworks. Those are bad enough, but it's the parties that go on, the loud voices, the music. There seems to be a lot that goes with having that. You know, it's a party time. They set off the fireworks. And again, she has cameras. I have cameras all over the house. And when I was looking at those cameras outside, the whole street would light up. Those aren't little tiny fireworks. Those are big fireworks. Now, I know we have a problem with the Native Nation selling them, and people go and buy them because they're available. They are very expensive, and the only ones that seem to benefit are the ones that are setting them off and the ones that are selling them. I don't know how we can stop it. I don't know how we can change what you have voted on. I failed in looking at the past videos to see who did what and who made this proclamation to have this thing happen from the 2nd to the 6th. I would think the 4th would be enough. I'm not sure why it was extended to the 6th from the 2nd. Anyway, I'm not sure how many fires were started. I never did hear very much about that. But honestly, folks, if we can change that, it would certainly benefit the senior citizens of our community, people like myself, even my son's generation is here. They are protesting it as well, are very concerned about it. I have classmates here that are backing me up, and this is from SHS 66. We're all from here. So we know what it's like to celebrate the 4th of July. We've had other wonderful celebrations in the past that have kind of disappeared. I remember Julia had a parade that my dad was the master of ceremonies, and he got to ride in that parade on the 4th of July. Him and my mom. That was wonderful. No more parade. I don't know what happened. there's all kinds of things that come and go, and I hope that Sunnyside can get behind the good ones and try to work out the bad ones, the ones that are upsetting people. It was hard for my mom to sleep, and she would lay in bed and she'd yell in bed, out the window, you know, thinking that was gonna stop it. But we all know what it did to the animals too. And I just hope that we can work together and figure out another way to celebrate the 4th of July. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Invite you all to stay and listen to the discussion. We will be, I haven't called you up yet, Mr. Fannin.
Oh, sorry.
We will be talking about this at length this evening. So I do invite you all to stay. And Mr. Fannin, your name's not on the list, but you're certainly welcome to come up and speak.
I looked on your website for a form to fill out. I didn't see one. I didn't see one at the front either. So,
It's up there prior to the meeting, sir.
oh, okay. So, anyway, first of all, I just wanted to say how tickled I am to see that the mayor's coin is still in use. I was chair of the planning commission, chair of the arts commission when we designed Kathleen had a big role in that, designed the mayor's coin as well as the city flag. So it was a great honor to be just one part of that team doing that. I'm so glad to see that it's still being carried on.
Give them away as fast as I can, sir.
Good. Keep on. Yeah, the fireworks situation, just, it was terrible. I've emailed all of you on council. I emailed you my letter to the editor. I brought I took pictures. These are samples of what I found on my roof, what I found in my yard. I could hear it clanging. Oh, I didn't mean to throw it at you, sir. Imagine hearing that on your patio roof. Imagine going over to the person saying, please don't do that. Imagine the person saying, I've got a permit. You have a bad attitude. No, I don't want my house being under attack. And I want my city, and I want my council, and I want our police who did heroic efforts, but totally not at all equipped by you all to deal with it. They were told, according to one told me, he didn't know which ones were legal and illegal. Another one said they were just told to legalize fireworks. They said it was okay to fire them in the street. It was a war zone. And it was much easier under the old regime, of the old way. It was pretty easy. They're illegal. So if you see someone lighting fireworks, if you're an officer and you drive by, oh, there's someone lighting fireworks, it's illegal. And unlike what one council member told me, this is not easier because now you're an officer. Okay, do you have a advance permit? Okay, is it legal or not legal? You have to define all of those things and responding to who knows how many calls. So you've actually made their job more difficult. And you also made it more difficult because on social media, there was nothing on your social media about what's legal and what's illegal until the morning of the 4th. And by that time, people had spent hundreds of dollars on and actually by that time, they already started lighting them on the 2nd. So please just restore the ban on fireworks. That's the simplest way that's the easiest. There's plenty of opportunities, plenty of places that people can go to set them off. They're legal in Zilla. They're illegal in other places. Grandview and Prosser smartly made them illegal. We should go back to that as well. Thank you. I don't know what my time is, but thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I don't know if you need these up here for evidence or not, but okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, Dr. Stevens, I'll call you forward. Again, I don't have your name on the list that was up there before the meeting, but go ahead, Dr. Stevens.
Sorry about that. I'll make it real brief. Just to reiterate what these folks have already said. And I know you guys are trying to do the easiest thing. Sometimes we make decisions, we find out later it wasn't the best decision. And I think that's probably what happened in this situation. I've never had that happen. Mine are always good. But at any rate, these aren't exactly fireworks like we know of fireworks. These are explosives. And usually it requires somebody with a license to set these kind of things off. I know at our place, they were coming up from down over the hill, and where they usually reach the peak way up in the sky, they were right in our front yard. And it was like a war zone. And I think that we want to make our community a favorable place to live. And for all the reasons that these folks have already brought up and a host of other ones, I don't think I'd want to live in Sunnyside if I was coming as a CEO from another area. You know, maybe my wife and I'd rather live in Grandview or Prosser or someplace. And I think we want those folks and other people that come here to really have a place that they want to stay. The other thing real quickly on First Street, as it comes off Sunnyside Avenue, they made a one-way on Spalding Avenue. And as you go up the hill, there should be, before you even get up there, there should be a sign there that says this is a one-way, do not enter. And there's not a sign until you get way up the one-way for a ways. And people get up there and then another car's coming down the street already, and it makes a difficult area. Thanks, appreciate it.
All right, thank you, sir. And again, I invite people to stay for the discussion on fireworks, and we will talk about that some more. All right. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Consent agenda consists of the following: the minutes of the May 13, 2024 study session and the May 13, 2024 regular meeting, the minutes of the May 28, 2024 study session and the May 28, 2024 regular meeting. Payroll vouchers. To approve the payroll vouchers number 119527 through 119544, and wire transfers as listed for $751,719.39 for the period ending on June 25, 2024. Approve payroll voucher numbers 119545 through 119569 and wire transfers as listed for $637,754.41 for the period ending on June 10, 2024. Claim vouchers. Approve claim voucher numbers 109558 through 109623 and wire transfers as listed for $343,599.98 for the period ending on June 21, 2024. Approve claim voucher numbers 109624 through 109671 and wire transfers as listed for $280,746.92 for the period ending June 28, 2024. Approve claim voucher numbers 109672 through 109726 and wire transfers as listed for $205,864.43 for the period ending on July 5, 2024. And approve claim voucher numbers 109727 through 109778 and wire transfers as listed for $346,292.15 for the period ending on July 12, 2024. Council members, any item you wish to remove from the consent agenda for discussion? Hearing none, what is the desire of council on this item?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
All right, we got a motion by Councilor Hart, second by Councilor Vasquez to approve the consent agenda as listed. Is there debate on this item? All right, all in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. I hear no no's. I too vote aye. Motion passes. Active agenda. Disability Independence Day Proclamation. Approve a resolution proclaiming July 26, 2024 as Disability Independence Day. Council, questions or comments on this item? Hearing none, what is the desire, council?
Move to approve resolution proclaiming July 26, 2024 as Disability Independence Day.
I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion by Councilor Hart, second by Councilor Frausto to approve that resolution. Is there debate on this item? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. I too vote aye. Motion passes, and I will read that resolution into the record at this time. City of Sunnyside, Washington proclamation. Whereas Disability Independence Day marks the signing of the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA, on July 26, 1990. The ADA prohibits discrimination against individuals with disabilities, including employment, transportation, public accommodations, and telecommunications. And whereas the Disability Independence Day serves as a reminder of the rich diversity and unique perspectives that individuals with disabilities bring to our community. By embracing and valuing these differences, we can create a society that is more inclusive and accepting of all people. And whereas there is still work to be done to break down the barriers faced, we encourage individuals, organizations, and communities to take action to create inclusive environments for all. And now therefore, I, Dean Broersma, as mayor of Sunnyside, Washington, do hereby proclaim July 26, 2024 as Disability Independence Day to honor the contributions of individuals with disabilities, and we affirm our commitment to promoting equality and inclusivity so they can thrive and reach their full potential. In testimony whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Sunnyside to be affixed, done at the city of Sunnyside this 22nd day of July in the year 2024. All right. Item B, correction of resolution 2024-16. Approve a resolution authorizing the distribution of revolving loan funds to Moto Enterprises LLC doing business as Bob's Drive-In. Mr. City Manager.
So if you'll recall, this is one of the revolving loan funds that was made out to the individual rather than the business, the agreement. So we just need a correction by council to get this taken care of.
Council, questions or comments on this item? Okay. Then hearing none, what is the desire of council?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Who was that, Ms. Vasquez?
That was.
That was Ms. Fausto, sorry.
Yeah. Sound alike.
Sorry, your voices sound the same sometimes.
When-
All right, we've got a motion by Deputy Mayor, second by Councilor Fausto to authorize the distribution of revolving loan funds to Motove Enterprises LLC doing business as Bob's Drive-In. Debate on this item. Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. I too vote aye. Motion passes. Item C. This is a public hearing, 2025 through 2030 6-year transportation improvement program. Public hearing, received public comments on the proposed 6-year transportation improvement plan. This public hearing is being held to receive public comments and recommendations concerning the 2025 through 2030 6-year transportation improvements program. The concern is that this hearing be fair in form and substance as well as appearance. Council members, do any of you have a conflict of interest concerning this issue? Do any of you stand to gain or lose any financial benefit as a result of the outcome of this hearing? If your answer is yes, please speak now. Council members, can you hear and consider this in a fair and objective manner? If your answer is no, please speak now. Audience members, is there anyone in the audience who objects to my participation or any other council member's participation in these proceedings? If there are objections, please approach the microphone, state your name, city of residence, and state your objection. All right, the time is now 6:56. And the public hearing is now open. All right, we'll allow the city manager to provide the staff report on this item. Mr. City Manager.
Mr. Sanchez.
Mr. Sanchez.
I will turn it over to Stephanie Ray with HLA.
Ms. Ray.
Mayor, City Manager, Public Works Director, thank you for having me here tonight. So this public hearing is for a 6-year transportation improvement program. This is a regulatory document. The city has to adopt a transportation plan each and every year at the local agency level. Those projects that are on that 6-year tip will be forwarded to the Yakima Valley Conference of Governments for inclusion in an MR tip. And those projects which have received federal funding will continue to move forward to the state to be included in a statewide transportation improvement program. There are a number of items, projects that the city has prioritized, and several of those are a continuation of previous years. There is a listing and an exhibit in the public hearing and council information, and we are happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Any person in the audience wishing to be heard on this matter, please approach the microphone, state your name and address, and offer your testimony. All right, we had no one sign up on the sheet either. Okay. Council members, questions or comments on this item? Ms. Hart.
We've spent a good deal of time, I think, here recently looking over our what's it called, the TIP, and reviewing all of the different projects that we have in place, ones who are already working on. going from ADA updates to sidewalks updates and a number of different projects which will be coming up in the coming year. Some of them include some roundabouts, perhaps some leveling of elevation of different stop signs and so forth. I think that this particular year for transportation improvement plan has really been well thought out. It's some additions to it. And I'm really think we have a good plan going forward. And some of the projects are already underway, as I said. And thank you very much for your work on that from Public Works and LDA, Stephanie.
Thank you, Ms. Hart. Further comments? All right, the time is 6:59. The public hearing is now closed. Thank you, everyone. We're not looking for a vote on this, are we? All right. Sometimes I see things on my agenda and I have to make sure that I'm not skipping something because I can do that. Item D then. 6-year transportation improvement plan. After the public hearing, approve a resolution adopting the 2025 through 2030 6-year transportation improvement plan. All right, council members, we just heard a public hearing. We just heard a bit of a briefing. You guys, we all attended a meeting and we heard a great deal of information. Is there questions or comments on this item?
For me.
All right, nobody's jumping up onto that one. What is the desire of council on this item?
Move to approve resolution adopting the 2025-2030 6-year transportation improvement plan.
I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion by Councilor Hart, second by Councilor Vasquez to approve the transportation improvement program. Debate on this item. Hearing none. All in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. I too vote aye. Motion passes. Item E, Sunnyside Climate Element Task Order. Approve a resolution authorizing the interim city manager to sign a task order with HLA Engineering and Land Surveying Incorporated to develop a climate element for the comprehensive plan. Mr. City Manager.
We heard about that in the study session. If there's any questions from council, Mr. Sanchez and Ms. Ray will be available.
Council members, questions for Mr. Sanchez or Ms. Ray?
I asked all my questions.
And that's why we have study sessions. Mr. Deputy Mayor.
So on the previous meeting earlier, I mentioned, my support for this item because we don't have the right people, the people right now. But say we get the right people in a month or two, right? I mean, it's wishful thinking sometimes, but that doesn't necessarily, we're not going to pay that 100,000 up front. It's billable like on a monthly basis from HLA.
Correct. It is on a reimbursement basis. And there actually is in the agreement with Commerce, there's a set number of tasks. Each one of those tasks has a amount associated with it. So if the city should bring a planner on board that has the ability to tackle say community engagement, then that work, that effort of work can be renegotiated out of our contract.
Thank you.
Good.
Further questions or comments, council? Hearing none, what is the desire of council on this item?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion by the deputy mayor, second by Councilor Hart, to approve a resolution authorizing the interim city manager to sign a task order with HLA Engineering and Land Surveying Incorporated to develop a climate element for the comprehensive plan. Is there debate on this item? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. I too vote aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Item F, intergovernmental local stormwater agreement. Approve a resolution authorizing the interim city manager to execute an agreement with Yakima County, the cities of Sela, Union Gap, and Sunnyside to continue to participate in an intergovernmental local agreement to cooperate in compliance with the federal NPDES Phase 2 stormwater regulations. Mr. City Manager.
This again was discussed in the study session regarding some of the requirements in this group providing this. Again, Mr. Sanchez is available for any questions.
Council members, questions for Mr. Sanchez? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
So on this, it just says percentages, right? But do we know what we paid, say, last year?
Well, last year it was 22% of the fee. So for example, this year, let's just take the drain rangers that we were talking about, which typically is really the only expense that we have. The rest is just working together. That is about a $25,000 distributed through all the cities. Our percentage being 25% comes out to about $6,250 for the year.
Okay.
Further questions? Yeah, it does get a little confusing when you just see the percentages, a percentage of how much. All right, so seeing there's no questions, what is the desire council on this item?
Move to approve authorizing the interim city manager to execute an agreement with Yakima County, the cities of Sela, Union Gap, and Sunnyside to continue to participate in an intergovernmental local agreement to compliance with the federal NPDES Phase 2 stormwater regulations.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilor Hart, second by Deputy Mayor. Is there debate on this item? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. I too vote aye. Motion passes. Item G, Complete Streets Award. And this is the first of awards that will be, or TIB type things that we'll be talking about. Approve a resolution authorizing a budget amendment for the Washington State Transportation Improvement Board Citywide Pedestrian Improvements Project. Mr. City Manager.
This was regarding the bid opening July 15th and the overage from the amount that was approved by TIB. And I believe this cost of the city is about $12,000. This was a budget amendment asked for by Mr. Sanchez and Ms. Ray. If you have any questions, are available.
Council members, questions?
I have a question.
Mr. Deputy Mayor.
So I went on the website and looked at the bids and the closed ones and the open ones. I think the police department has one that's open right now, but I didn't see any of these bids on there. Is there a reason why?
We maintain the plan holders list for the city of Sunnyside. So if you can go on to our website, you would see all of the bid results, including city of Sunnyside's. So all the public works contracts that are facilitated through us. This doesn't include purchasing contracts, but anything with a tangible project. They have to be publicly displayed.
Thank you.
Further questions? Hearing none, what is the desire of council on this item?
Move to approve the resolution authorizing a budget amendment of the amount of $12,510 for the TIB Citywide Pedestrian Improvements Project.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Councilor Vasquez, second by Councilor Hart. Is there debate on this item?
Just a question. Do we know what the estimate start date for this project might be?
Yeah, so pending award tonight, the contracts will go out this week. It roughly takes about 3 to 4 weeks to get those contracts back. And the anticipated start date for this project is the second week in August.
Thank you.
Good. All right. Seeing no more debate, all in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. I too vote aye. Motion passes. Item H, Transportation Improvement Board Arterial Preservation Program Funding Application. Approve a resolution authorizing the interim city manager to submit a funding application to the Arterial Preservation Program offered by the Transportation Improvement Board. Mr. City Manager.
These were not previously discussed, and these are 3 applications. I'll turn it over to Mr. Sanchez and Ms. Ray.
Mr. Sanchez.
Thank you. I will turn it over to Stephanie with HLA.
Mayor, City Manager, Public Works Director, thank you for having me here tonight. So this is one of 3 potential applications. This is for the city's consideration to submit to the Transportation Improvement Board. TIB has a routine call once a year, and this is a set program. There's actually 4 programs, and this is unlike the Complete Streets that we just talked about, which was a special call. This first application is for the Arterial Pavement Preservation Program. And each year HLA facilitates a tour, if you will, with TIB staff to review multiple projects in our region. These 3 projects were reviewed with TIB. And they were found to be in support of submitting applications for this particular program. So this roadway is 16th Street. And on the tip, we originally had this project going from Yakima Valley Highway up to north city limits. After review with TAB on site, they felt that North Avenue to Yakima Valley Highway with the break for that new intersection, and then from Yakima Valley Highway down to Edison would score better and was in worse shape than going north to the city limits. And so with this project, we'd be submitting for what you see in red. And this would be a grind and overlay. So under this program, we cannot pay for sidewalk gaps, but we can resurface the street. And we would be submitting this online through to TAB. If successful, we'd find out around December 2nd of this year. And then a following award, if the project is successful, a fuel tax agreement would be submitted by TAB. So at that point, City Council would execute the fuel tax agreement with the budget amendment. So at this point, all that we're looking to do is to submit the application for TAB consideration.
Council, questions or comments? Mr. Deputy Mayor.
So this is TIB requires a 15% match of the program, and the cost would be approximately 362,572. Is that our 15% or is that total?
So this one is a little interesting. So TAB has some guidelines for paying for projects. They will not pay for say parallel parking, and the street has parallel parking on both sides. So if it's desired to resurface that parallel parking, then that would be a complete city cost. So when you look at the cost estimate, there's a category, Jackie, can you switch over to cost estimate? There is toward the bottom, almost there. Keep going. Okay, up just a little bit. There is a TIB eligible cost. So those would include then that just the travel lanes. Oftentimes there's 3 travel lanes on the road. So the 15% match requirement would be the $137,000. If it's decided by council and the city to go for the full application, which would include the parallel parking on both sides, and then that payment which TIB considers ineligible, then the city's contribution would be the $362,575.
Further questions, Ms. Fausto?
Yeah, Stephanie, could you talk a little bit more about 2 things, about the fuel tax agreement? Just so I could understand that a little bit better. And then it says that the completion of this project would be 2025. When would be the start date?
So the fuel tax agreement is an interesting name, but it is the actual agreement between the city and TIB. So TIB requires that each fuel tax agreement come before city council for execution. Lack of a better word, it is an agreement. TIB uses fuel taxes to fund their program, so that's how the fuel tax becomes a part. But that fuel tax agreement, that at that point, if this project was successful, that would be the point that we would do a budget amendment to budget for the project. So upon award, would be around December 2nd, TIB will send out fuel tax agreements for any successful project to any city around about the first of the year. So with grind and overlays, TIB really wants the work to get done in the same year. So upon execution of that fuel tax agreement, we would start design. And then following design would be in construction. So all the work essentially would be complete in 2025.
Understood. Thank you.
Mr. Deputy Mayor.
I wanted to go back to the parallel situation here. So in between Edison and the Yakima Valley Highway, if you're going northbound on 16th Street, I've never really seen anybody park on the, what is that, the east side of that road. Can we just put a sign that says no parking and they could pay for the?
They won't pay for anything outside of about a 12, 13-foot travel lane. So any additional pavement, whether it's for parking or not, they won't support. So we're actually lucky in smaller cities like Cle Elum, they will actually leave it gravel. They won't even support any paving at all. So we're fortunate that they're not making us take it out for this project, if we're successful.
Yeah, I kind of have a problem with that as well. I don't think it lends itself well over there to angle parking. It seems like the parallel parking, especially in front of the residences over there across from the school, to ask them to all of a sudden angle park. I would think at night, if you're forced to park your car out on the street, like some of them are, that sets your car up as a little bit more of a risk. Traffic, sometimes people go flying through there. Obviously, our police department is doing their best to keep that from happening, but that doesn't always work. And I see how fast they drive by my house. I don't even park my car parallel parked on the street, because of that. But to ask them to angle park through there doesn't make a whole lot of sense the way we're set up.
For future consideration on projects not under this program, because TIB will not pay for new sidewalks. But if there was an extra wide street, which, I mean, you guys are fortunate that you have that, but unfortunate because funding programs won't pay for it. Under reconstruction projects, you can choose to reduce that street width and bring your sidewalks in. And to avoid, marking it, it's just not eligible under this program.
All right, further questions or comments? Hearing none, what is the desire of council on this item?
Sorry, approve a resolution authorizing the interim city manager to submit a funding application to the Arterial Preservation Program offered by the Transportation Improvement Board.
I'll second.
All right, we got a motion by Councilor Hart, second by the deputy mayor. Debate on this item. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The two vote aye. Motion passes. Item I, Transportation Improvement Board Complete Streets Program Funding Application. Approve a resolution authorizing the interim city manager to submit a funding application to the Complete Streets Program offered by the Transportation Improvement Board. Mr. City Manager.
I'll again turn this over to Ms. Ray with HOA.
Ms. Ray.
Members of council, city manager, public works, thank you again. So this is number 2 of 3 applications that we're looking to submit. This particular one, I think council has seen it before. We have, you just approved moving forward with some ADA ramps. When that was submitted to TIB, they reduced the award by about half. So what this application does is submit then the remainder of those improvements to TIB. When TIB was here a week and a half ago, they encouraged us to apply for this program. Council may remember that we've also applied to the Safe Route to School program as well. So we're, I guess, double covered, if you will. And like the APP program that we just talked about, if funding is awarded, it would follow the same process. There would be a separate fuel tax agreement that would be issued to the city around January. This work would be intended to be designed and constructed in 2025.
And for the benefit of the audience, the fuel tax does not increase our fuel tax in Sunnyside. And these projects are specific to what? ADA ramps around town?
This particular one is the Complete Streets program. And so with Complete Streets, the city actually has a Complete Streets policy in the municipal code. And so what we're aiming to do is improve multimodal transportation and safety for everyone, primarily focusing on pedestrians and cyclists and anyone with a disability of crossing a road. In this particular project, we are focusing around those ramps around schools which do not currently meet ADA.
Okay, I just want to make sure everybody understood what we were talking about because we throw these terms out and sometimes we forget that we have audience members who don't talk about this every day. Council members, questions or comments? Mr. Deputy Mayor.
On page 10, Jackie, if you could go to that Franklin Avenue and 16th Street, shouldn't there be a crosswalk on the or an ADA ramp on the north side there? Keep going, that one. Because you can see the ramps going south, but you can see the crosswalk, going across 16th Street, but there's no ramps.
Yeah, so we were looking at this, and we will continue to look at it. When we drove through this area, there was not a crosswalk there. It had been removed. Go ahead, Mr. Sanchez.
I'd like to just add, years back with the city, from my understanding, is because the school there has personnel there crossing the children.
Mhm.
And so they try to cross them through one sidewalk instead of trying to get both And that's the reason that they had taken one out, because they have staff there. So they stop traffic and send the children through there to try to keep them on one side or crosswalk.
Mm.
That's my understanding for that.
Are those lines still there on the road?
No, I believe that's what Stephanie was talking, that they've been
They're
removed.
gone. Okay.
The
Gotcha.
ones at the top.
We will certainly look into that. If they are there, we'll look into adding that back in. But as we were driving by, they were either not maintained well at the moment, or they had been, or they attempted to be removed.
There's a certain logic to having one crossing point so that staff members can safely make sure the kids cross, as opposed to having them cross at two. Kids being kids will tend to dart out into traffic and people don't necessarily see them in time, and we don't want kids to get run over. I like kids. I don't want them run over. Further questions, comments?
I just have one more question on
Go ahead,
this.
sir.
On location 1, 6th Street and Lincoln Avenue. If I remember correctly, wasn't this intersection discussed maybe last year, completely redoing that intersection?
Mhm.
Does it make sense to do the ADA ramps now and then redo everything again? Or is this what we're doing to it?
No, good question. And this intersection has been brought up many times. It is one of the older span wires, intersections within the city. This intersection though operates incredibly poorly for pedestrian improvements. And so when we had completed the self-evaluation phase of the ADA transition plan, this intersection with the amount of traffic and people, with it being close proximity to schools, ranked incredibly poorly. And so what we're looking to do with this project is to improve the ADA ramps. There is a significant amount of work that has to happen in addition to this, including just a replacement of the signal. What we're intending to do is place these ramps in positions where we don't have to rip them back out.
Okay, thank you.
And I agree with the deputy mayor on that one. You know, we do receive a fair amount of feedback on those sorts of things. And if we do a project and then undo it right away, that's, we hear about it. And we'd like to get ahead of that. So it's a good observation the deputy mayor made there as well. Further questions or comments? All right, what is the desire of council on this item?
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, motion by deputy mayor, second by Councilor Hart to approve a resolution authorizing the interim city manager to submit a funding application to the Complete Streets program offered by the Transportation Improvement Board. Debate on this item. Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. By 2 vote aye, motion passes. Item J, Transportation Improvement Board Urban Arterial Program Funding Application. Approve a resolution authorizing the interim city manager to submit a funding application to the Transportation Improvement Board Complete Streets Program. Mr. City Manager.
Ms. Ray?
Mayor, members of council, city manager, public works director, thank you again. This is the last of 3. So this particular program is our urban arterial program. The intent of work under this program is to be reconstruction. So these are your much larger projects. And this particular location is on the 6-year tip. If council remembers, we had submitted for a surface transportation block grant application, also known as a STBG, to the Yakima Valley Conference of Governments. The city of Sunnyside in this project was prioritized as number 1. And however, the total project cost is about 2.6 million. And if council remembers, this is a roundabout at the location of Yakima Valley Highway and First. So based on available funding coming into our region, we'll have approximately 1.2 million of the total 2.6 million. So during our visit with TIB, TIB is in support of this project, especially considering it's halfway funded. That benefit to TIB is TIB will, we can use the federal match for the 15% TIB match. So in other words, if TIB funds this, the city's match contribution will continue to be 0. So federal funding will become available in October of 2024. We propose to start design work. If TIB is successful this year, it will take us about 7 to 8 months to design this roundabout. And then we could foresee construction as early as early of 2026.
Council, questions or comments on this item? No. Just a comment on my part, that intersection of First Street and Yakima Valley Highway. If you've had to try to sit there on that left turn lane waiting for the light and it lasts maybe a half a second, it feels like, and the car in front of you gets through and then you're stuck for the entire change again. That intersection has been troublesome for a long time. And we've got the problem, of course, with Outlook Road coming in there and North Street coming in there real close as well. Something has to be done to improve that. And this is seen as probably the best alternative. More stoplights don't seem to be solving the problem. We've got increased growth predicted to the west of Sunnyside. And I think it's in our best interest as a city to get ahead of increased traffic and start making some long-term plans for that. So that's where some of these ideas started. Ms. Hart.
One of the other aspects of that too is that's also coming off of Yakima Valley Highway onto North First as part of our truck route. So having that wide enough or available for trucks to be, making that turn to get back onto the truck route it would be a lot safer than it is currently.
It is, yes. And the idea is to keep traffic moving. This location has a number of accidents, including some serious incidents that have happened over the years. Another consideration, this location is there is actually a sight distance issue going across the intersection. That curve is all super elevated. And so this project would be taking out a large amount of dirt to try to level out this intersection to make it safer for sight distance.
All right, further comments or questions, council? Ms. Fausto.
Just a comment, because I've been hearing from a lot of constituents and their reluctancy to the roundabouts, right? And we had this discussion about roundabouts and how they're very common elsewhere. And, I know I myself wasn't a fan when I had to start going through them, but now it's pretty simple. Is there any way that we can start easing into the community some benefits of these roundabouts? Maybe some data statistics of how these actually help maneuver and keep traffic flowing and maybe decrease a lot of the accidents that have been happening specifically in that intersection?
We certainly can. I'm happy to work with Jackie on community outreach and Facebook and getting information on the website. This location, while this is in the city, will be very similar to Grandview's roundabout outside of Blyle. That was put in for the same reason, heavy freight traffic coming through that intersection right off the off-ramp. So very, very similar, and we should be able to rely on some of their data. I do know in that particular project, the community had a big concern over transitioning to roundabouts.
Yeah.
And we might even call in the police chief. I know in Grandview, they literally had like a pilot car with a patrol to go around that roundabout and the different movements to help transition the community to kind of that circular motion.
Great idea.
That is a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
So I also think that it's going to be similar to last year's project on Sixth Street in Sunnyside, where it seemed like it went on forever and there's going to be some rather intense traffic disruptions and changes and things that people have to contend with. We'll tell you in advance that that's probably going to be the case. It's a big project. Even if it doesn't start till 2026, starting in 2026 onward, it's still going to be a big project. So we're going to have to all be braced for that. It's going to impact businesses in the area. And so we need to be planning for that as well. Unfortunately, these kinds of projects do lead to inconveniences. I have several friends who were strongly inconvenienced by last year's project. And yet when you go down the streets now, the streets are absolutely amazing. At the end, it always feels like it was worth it. In the middle of it, it doesn't feel like it's worth it at all. But at the same time, I think we'll be glad at the end of it that we've got that done. So council, any more questions or comments? Ms. Vasquez.
One comment. So I am all for roundabouts because on Yakima Valley Highway, when you take that exit, cars are they're speeding, and it's hard for them to sometimes realize that they're coming into city and they're still speeding. So roundabouts force cars to slow down and they have to yield. They have to pay attention and be aware of the other cars coming around. So I'm all for this.
Me too.
All right.
One more thing.
Go ahead, sir.
So I know it's still early, right, for the roundabout, but I would like to, once we get closer to building this, maybe get some community input as to, you know, it's a good way, it's an entry point, right, for Sunnyside. So it'd be a good idea or maybe a study to see what they would like to see in the middle of these. Just so it won't be, you know, plain and simple, something that will catch the attention.
Absolutely. And you know, that's actually the hardest part about all of these projects is the aesthetics and what to put in the middle. I know Grandview did a flag, Union Gap has done signage and landscaping. So it really does come down to what ambience and aesthetics, you know, the city and community want to see there.
Thank you.
We could employ our arts department to our arts committee to go to it, right?
Pretty cool.
All right. Further questions or comments? Hearing none, what is the desire of council on this item?
Move to approve the resolution amendment authorizing interim, whoops, sorry, that's the wrong one. Excuse me, go back to the transportation improvement
J.
one. And number J there, approve the resolution authorizing interim city managers to submit funding application to the Transportation Improvement Board Complete Street Program.
I'll second.
All right, we got a motion by Councilor Hart, second by Deputy Mayor. Debate on this item. Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. By 2 vote aye, motion passes. Item K. Recreation and Conservation Office RCO Pump Track Grant Application. Approve a resolution amending authorizing the city manager to apply for a youth athletic facilities grant with the Recreation and Conservation Office to construct a pump track at Sunnyview Park. Mr. City Manager.
Again, this is an item that was previously discussed and has been discussed in previous council meetings as well. We're asking to be able to apply for this. We would have come back to council before we accepted the funds, but we stand for any questions.
Council, questions? No questions, then what is the desire of council on this item?
Move to approve.
Go ahead. I was actually, I didn't want debate to close. I actually had a comment.
Yeah, well, as soon as we get a second, then we can go on to debate. There's plenty of comments.
Second, I'll second it.
All right, so we've got a motion to approve from the deputy mayor, second by the Councilor Hart, to approve a resolution amendment authorizing the city manager to apply for a youth athletic facilities grant with the Recreation and Conservation Office to construct a pump track at Sunnyview Park. Debate on this item, Ms. Frausto.
Yeah, actually, I was going to turn to I know I'm city manager. We know we have some people here in the room, and maybe explain a little bit about how this isn't going to cost the city money and the use of some of the land that's going to go out over in Sunnyview.
Sure. So Sunnyview Park is the park that's between Sunnyside and Grandview. And if you've spent any time out there, you notice that there's some unused softball fields on the backside of the park. And the plan would be to put a pump track out there. Can you put the map of the pump track? A track is a track that kids can ride their bicycles on. It takes minimal pedaling effort once you get going, and the track keeps you moving. What this would do is we would apply for a grant. There is a city match. However, the gentleman that is a proponent of these tracks has gone out and gotten community funding to cover the city's portion of that grant. So this would be basically revitalizing a couple of softball fields into a bicycle track is what it is at no cost to the city. It would be using existing land that the city owns.
And this is an individual that approached the city with an idea. And at this point, we are authorizing to apply for the grant. This does not have anything else after that. Once the grant has been awarded, it comes back to city council to decide whether we're going to accept that. And this individual is going to have to show us the funding, make sure that there is no way that this is going to cost the city anything. City maintains ownership of the land, and we retain operation of the park. So this is not something that's going to be transfer of ownership or anything like that. And those were all questions that came up during our discussion earlier. And as Ms. Frausto mentioned, it's probably very handy for all of you in the audience to know that. Can eliminate as much confusion as possible beforehand. Further questions or comments or debate on this item?
For the question.
And we have a call for the question. We do have a motion on the table. All in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed, no. I too vote aye. Motion passes. All right. Now we are to the real question of the evening. I asked the clerk to put this on tonight's agenda on July 5 after my phone nearly melting on July 4. I was on a vacation that had been previously planned over that week, and so I wasn't in Sunnyside to enjoy the consequences of council's decision at that point, but there were a number of members of this community who were more than happy to help me understand the consequences of council's actions. And I watched my battery just fade away into almost nothingness over the course of that evening. And and I know after talking to council members, I wasn't the only one to hear about that. Obviously, the decision that council made earlier in June was not universally loved. And so I wanted to make sure that we had an opportunity to talk about that question tonight. I've had a meeting with both the fire chief and the police chief to discuss this, and we've got some ideas coming from that. But just a little bit of background history before I open it up for council to discuss. This permit process and this idea was an attempt to solve a different problem. In 2021, 22, I don't remember exactly, we were approached by members of the community who were very upset, and rightfully so, with the detonation of fireworks for weeks surrounding the 4th of July. It wasn't just 3 or 4 days, it was weeks. It was going sometimes up to 6 weeks at all hours of the day and night. People were concerned about their pets. They were concerned about getting a decent night's sleep. They were concerned about health questions, and council took that seriously. We looked at a number of different cities, one of them being Zilla, that had an ordinance that allowed fireworks under certain conditions. And in an attempt to try to solve the never-ending detonation of fireworks, we thought, okay, let's allow it, but only for certain days. And so we didn't know exactly what the consequences of that were going to be, but it was an attempt to solve that problem. On occasion, as has already been mentioned by someone this evening, an attempt to solve a problem opens up the door to another one. So we need to have a debate about this. So council, any questions or comments that you want to make, and then we'll let the chief of the fire chief and the police chief share some of their thoughts.
Can we have them share their thoughts and then?
I think so.
Off of that?
Let's go.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do it that way.
You want to go first or you want me to? I can go first, doesn't matter. Okay, so my, if it's up to council if you want to legalize fireworks or not, that's not my decision. My input would be reduce it to the 4th of July only. If the 4th of July falls on a Wednesday, it was a Thursday this week, and you have an entire work week of people unable to sleep. So I mean, that's detrimental to people that have to get up at 4 and 5 in the morning. We have a lot of people that go to work that early in the summertime. And I think that was one of the biggest issues that I got complaints on. The other thing is the illegal fireworks were brought up and the ability to go buy them 5 miles away. Maybe we offer fireworks that are legal for sale in the city of Sunnyside. We didn't do that this year, so you basically had to go buy the fireworks that weren't legal. Just so you know, on the 4th, just the 4th specifically, the police department went to 56 residents to check for permits. 51 had permits, 5 didn't, and all 5 were issued tickets. Now, keep in mind, our officers physically had to walk up, contact somebody and ask for their permit. One of the things that was discussed with the mayor and the fire chief is in Zilla, when you buy your permit, you get basically a yard sign. It looks like much like the size of a campaign sign you stick in the yard, and it says City of Zilla permit number, and they write the number on there. And then so you're able to check when you're driving down the road if they have a permit or not. You don't have to get out of your car, walk up, hey, do you have a permit, and check with them. So that's my 2 cents on it. If we're going to legalize them, I'd like it to see one particular day, maybe from noon to 11 o'clock, or I don't really care what you guys do as far as hours, but just reduce it to 1 day. I think the 5 days was a little much.
Thank you, sir, chief.
So my sentiments, Mayor Chief Layman's as well. We beefed up our staffing a little bit in a couple of days with anticipation of really not knowing what to expect with this being a relatively new endeavor in the city. And I can assure you that at least on the night of the 4th, actual starting at about 4 a.m. on the 4th, that was a significant, a literal and figurative lifesaver. We had a couple of incidents that were able to be minimized that very well could have been catastrophic if we had not done so. So with that being said, we would, if we're able to concentrate it to, as Chief Lehman said, to a singular day, that would allow public safety to, I guess, ramp up our efforts a little bit for a more concentrated period of time versus spread out over the course of a number of days. It would create a much less of a burden on public safety entities, that's for sure. And I can answer of any questions on it, but just as far as a matter of opinion, mine mirrors Chief Lehman's.
Council, questions or comments? Deputy Mayor?
Do we know how many permits were issued?
Yes, we do. I have here 239 permits issued.
One thing to point out, I'm not sure if everybody on council is aware of this and the audience, if council decides to make a change, it cannot take effect on the 4th of July next year. It has to wait a year because there's a grace period, and Mr. Riley, the city attorney, could probably speak on that, but it won't be able to take effect next year. There will be 5 days of fireworks next year.
Will that also be true if we decide to ban fireworks?
Yes.
Unless you make an emergency declaration, please.
Let's do that.
An emergency declaration can we limit it to 1 day with an emergency declaration?
Yes, but it has to be coupled under public concern, meaning that fire, where we've seen that occur is if typically there's a fire ban or some sort of increase in fire sensitivity.
I'd like to ask the audience to please stop discussion, which kind of makes it hard to concentrate.
In which case, then you are authorized on an emergency basis to ban that going forward.
So the only way we'd be able to do it is if we have like an extremely dry winter and so there's a fire concern. So we'd have to be able to say absolutely nothing at that point. That's the only way we could do it.
Initiated by some sort of public need such as that.
Okay.
Mr. Riley, I'm not sure if this plays into effect, but just a question and something to bring to the table is most years, just based on relative humidity and high temperatures this time of year, the county fire marshal as a whole for unincorporated Yakima initiates a burn ban that covers, virtually every July that I've ever been aware of. Is that something that would constitute? Yes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that we do have something that we can grab onto and. Okay.
If that's initiated, yes.
Okay, Ms. Hart.
One of the things that as many of you know, the Sunnyside Lions every year puts on a professional fireworks show with trained pyrotechs over at the Clinton football field to put on a show. And it was really disappointing this year. I'm chairman of the fireworks show, so I can say this, that our show was reduced in people didn't come to the football field for the show there. They were, and who wouldn't? They stayed home at their homes and barbecued and had their beverages of choice and shot off their fireworks in their yard with the fireworks ending up on people's roofs and on cars. And I don't know that we actually had any fires in town.
We did, ma'am.
There were, I suspected that there were. It was really disappointing to have, 229 permits were issued. 56 were, what did you say? 56?
We contacted 56 people. 51 had permits, 5 did not. And those 5 were all issued tickets.
Tickets, okay. I would say that we had the smallest crowd of people at this year's Lions 4th of July show that we've ever had. And we had vendors down there with food and all that good stuff and entertainment and but we couldn't compete with the fireworks going on around us. They were just, we were surrounded. And even going home after the show, after we'd put everything away, kids were down on my street on Fourth Street, I actually stopped, and I know I'm not supposed to do that, but I did, and I told them that they couldn't be shooting their fireworks in the street. Well, it's public right away, and I says exactly why you can't do it. Take your fireworks back to your yard. And they started coming towards my car, so I just yelled louder at them, so they backed off. Keep your voice.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, just to
Mr. Chief.
add on to Ms. Hart's comment there, I would just like to draw attention to at least once, I believe actually a second time, one of our emergency responses was delayed due to individuals lighting off fireworks in the street. We actually responded to a bush on fire at 16th and Lincoln, which we had to quite literally stop our response to allow a firework to finish flowing, however you'd like to word it, before we could continue a response to extinguish the
See, that kind of stuff should not be happening.
So that brings up another point that needs to be clarified is those, there's at the very least, there's got to be a document that they sign that they've read the rules that this sort of stuff is not permitted. And even then, if they have a permit and they're seen lighting them off in the street and public right away, then they can be fined and see some consequences from that as well. If we decide to narrow it down to one day, sir, are we able to still do that for next year? Or is that going to be we're stuck with 5 days?
Stuck with 5 days for one more year.
Okay, how about narrowing down what is available to shoot off? I mean, if we can get that, and it's gonna be really difficult because running to the reservation is just way too easy. But to make an attempt to at least get moving in that direction, are we okay to do that?
Redefine what the parameters are for what's allowed, yeah.
Okay. Because those mortars going off were insane.
That was crazy.
Crazy idea.
I think we're already selling the permits, so that's nothing new. We can identify with a sign that won't be any more restrictive, that we're giving them the sign.
Mhm.
And when they purchase that sign, it needs to have a list of rules. These are what's legal. This, you need to light it off from your property and things like that. And any violation of that can be a ticket.
Okay. Mr. Deputy Mayor?
Mr. Lehman, so in the past years, you say that, they do the fireworks for weeks on end, before and after. Are we having that issue now?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. It's the same.
I think it may have, from where I live, it slowed it down a little bit, but it did not in any way eliminate it.
It was down on what we call the flats as opposed to Harrison Hill. It was a war zone. It's true. That term has been used quite a bit tonight, but it's true. I mean, I was driving home through fireworks smoke. It was crazy. It was just
Well,
crazy.
and I believe in a conversation with Miss Ripley, she said too, that she's had neighbors that were just lighting them off weeks,
Oh, yeah,
quite a while afterwards. And so it didn't solve the problem we were hoping to solve.
did not.
And I don't, Miss Ripley, you're on the call. Do you want to make a comment to that as well?
There she is.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a war zone in my neighborhood, and I called the police department to find, on July 4th, I called the police department to ask, did they go out and check these fireworks? And he just kind of came back with, well, this is what the council wanted. And I didn't tell him that I was part of council, but he didn't ask either, but I told him, well, what about the M80s? Because that's all that was around my neighborhood was M80s. And he says, all the fireworks are allowed. And I said, no, those are illegal. And they didn't seem to have no direction on which way to go. At least the dispatcher didn't. And I didn't like 4th of July this year, neither did my animals. And they're still lighting them off around here. My animals are still freaked out. That's all I gotta say.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Ms.
It
Hart.
had one of the things that when people who are calling and melting the phones talked about, well, who do we sue if our house is damaged or our car is damaged as a result of the use of illegal fireworks in town, since you've lifted the ban on fireworks. And I said, I don't even want to talk about that. Cause that's just a scary notion altogether when we start talking about that, but people's property was damaged.
And Chief has, you may be able to make a comment to that as well.
The city's not liable for any damage by the fireworks. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm on city council in another city that allows them, and we've had this question multiple times. And it is the person that lights off the fireworks.
So if the person across the street shoots fireworks, they end up on the roof of my house and something bad happens, then I can sue that person.
You could sue their homeowners.
Their homeowners.
Correct.
And I think the city of Zillow requires $1 million policy of some sort in order to get a permit as well, which I believe we would definitely have to look
Can we add
into.
that?
We can,
We can or?
but we don't, we can. We just don't want to burn people's houses down. We want to solve
Well,
this
what I'm
before it comes
thinking
to
is,
that.
yeah, we want to have some sort of permit about insurance, that they need to have some sort of.
The advantage to the permit process is they come in, they show they have insurance. You're getting residents that are lighting your fireworks off. Like was mentioned earlier, there are cities near us without legal fireworks. So what prevents them from driving to, say, the movie theater parking lot or the high school parking lot and start lighting off fireworks? Those are problems we don't want to have. If we're going to allow it, we allow it for our residents. Well, those people aren't allowed to buy permits because they don't have a residence here in town. So that's a big key to the permit process.
Say that,
Mhm.
again. I didn't quite understand.
You're not able to sell permits to somebody who doesn't have a city address. So if somebody from outside the city comes into town and decides to light fireworks off on the side of the road, you write them a ticket for no permit because they clearly don't have one. They're not a city resident.
How many citations were you able to issue last year? If you remember.
I don't know that number off the top of my head.
It was probably zero because every time I used to call, the police, they say, oh, well, we have to see them physically light the firework. But now at least if they don't have a permit, you could issue them a citation.
Yes, you can issue a citation because the fireworks are coming from that resident.
Gotcha.
I think,
So can we issue citations now?
Yeah, if somebody lights a firework off, yeah, but
Yeah.
the issue is, it's not the firework goes off and the neighbor says it came from that house. You have to see who lit the firework off. I mean, you have the burden of proof in court. Well, it's the law. So you have to be able to point to that person and be able to confront their accuser in court. Well, the officer's a pretty good accuser when they say, I saw him lighting a firework off. It's like, I can't write a speeding ticket based on somebody calling in saying that there's this car speeding by my house. It's a red car. I have to go there and get them on radar. I can write a ticket based off another officer's observation or my own. I can't write it off a citizen's observation.
Okay.
well, we really need to take another look at this, our permit then, and make it stronger.
Well, I
We can at least do that.
Yes. Right, and we can, and we have to, actually. We can't tolerate the stuff that we've had to listen to, or everyone else except for me because I was gone. But all the phone calls I got indicated that it was, a really big problem. And I know there are people who were upset that I was gone, and I apologize for that, but I had an opportunity to take care of my grandkids for a few days, and I wasn't gonna pass that up. He was 6, he wanted a motorcycle ride. I went there and gave him a motorcycle ride. It took me 4 days to do it, but I wasn't gonna miss that opportunity, so I don't apologize for that. But at any rate, we don't want this problem to go on. We need to strengthen these rules a little bit, tighten things up. I would like to send that to Public Safety Committee if we can, and allow Public Safety Committee to do some work on that. And
I have one more question, I guess a legal question. If we change it and just for one day, 4th of July, then this coming up year, we have the dangers of all the fires. Can we say, hey, due to the dangers, it's only gonna be one day?
You're splitting hairs at that point, and the only way you could change it from less than 5 days for coming up is if there's some sort of enumerated public safety issue. And that's going to be a burn ban of some sort, most likely. That's what we've seen in the past a lot. So, but short of that, it's gonna be difficult.
Let's say there is a burn ban, right?
There is a burn ban, then you can initiate a public safety issue and recall allowing it. I don't think you can limit it to 1 day in that situation.
You have to recall it completely.
Yeah.
Completely. You couldn't
Okay.
have any fireworks.
Right.
How soon could we modify the amount of days that they're able to
You
shoot
can
fireworks?
modify it now, it just won't be
Okay.
effective until
Or 2000. 26.
26.
You just want to make sure this doesn't go under the radar until next year. And we're right after the 4th making the change because it's fresh in our minds. And then we have to skip another year. So you want to make this change before the 4th next year.
There's also the ability to increase this from an infraction to a misdemeanor for reckless endangerment.
Yeah,
Mm,
that's something we can consider.
That's something you consider for the safety committee as well. And then AOC can incorporate.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay, so we do have some options and I would encourage Public Safety Committee to meet and do that as soon as possible so that you can get started on that and bring that back to council so that we can approve those changes. And yeah, I think this was an important discussion. I think, like I said, the community is not universally supportive of the idea of the change. I will say there were a lot of people who really enjoyed it, however. They had a good time and they did obey the rules. There was just the ones who didn't obey the rules were really, really loud. So.
Mr. Mayor, is there a way to, when we're talking about with the safety committee and we're talking about this again, I know that there's a state ban, that there's illegal fireworks. And somehow can we put into our permit process that people will be fined double for having illegal fireworks? Is that a possibility?
Well, you can define penalties differently, however you choose to do so on that situation, as long as they don't exceed the state penalties.
Because we shouldn't be using those anywhere in the state, and particularly we shouldn't be using it in our residential neighborhoods.
They're already illegal, and so so the question would be then if you can increase the penalty. Yes, you could. Now, proving that it has been the issue because you have to have witnesses see the
Right. Well, there's, I think it's too bad that you can't just use, like, as Mr. Fannin brought in earlier, the evidence of what's going off in the neighborhood.
We do have a crime lab, and maybe you could fingerprint these things. I don't know, but it's
unlikely,
Yeah.
as the chief said, but it's not I wish it was, we could do that.
Okay, well, thank you for the discussion, everyone. This is something I did not want to miss. Like I said, I made sure it was on the agenda on July 5. This is something that we will have to discuss throughout the course of the year. I don't, like the chief said, I don't want to get to the point next year where on July 6, we're talking about it. And it's like, yeah, so we've got a year yet to do anything about it. So let's get ahead of this and come up with a solution. We've been working on this for a number of years. Obviously, the solution that we've just approved isn't the perfect one. And so there definitely needs to be some work done on that. So let's move on to the next item. We have camping at Central Park. I know this is Miss Ripley's item, and Miss Ripley is here via Zoom. And I've had several people bring that up to me. When did we start allowing people to camp in Central Park? And the answer to that question is, well, we never technically have allowed people to camp in Central Park except without a special permit. But so I don't know, Chief, if you've got some things that you can bring up on that.
Well, it's interesting because at the time there were people camping in Central Park is when the law changed. So it was legal. There was nothing we could do about it up until about a week and a half ago when the United States Supreme Court in Grant Pass, Oregon versus, I don't know the name, Johnson case was handed down, and that allows us now to enforce our camping ordinance, which is Chapter 940 of the Sunnyside Municipal Code, which is a ordinance that's been on the books. We just weren't able to enforce it because of a federal ban coming out of the Ninth Circuit. So we're now able to enforce the camping ordinance that we have, and it's expected to happen going forward. So if Mr. Riley would like to speak on it anymore, he was giving me advice. I was emailing him right away as soon as I saw there was people camping there. So
Mr. Riley.
So at this point now, encampments that are not legally permitted and stay at city parks, if there's an ordinance that says you can clear that encampment, then you're allowed to do so. What the decision did was it struck down the ban based on cruel and unusual punishments under the Eighth Amendment of the United States. And so
Could you speak up a
Sure.
little bit, sir?
And so what it states now is ordinances that allow you to remove encampments or put civil or criminal penalties or fines against someone who is illegally located within a city park for camping purposes is now allowed. That's what was banned in the Ninth Circuit. So you can trespass people, you can now put civil penalties and criminal penalties in place for someone who is illegally camping in the state park, and you can now remove them. There was a WCIA, which is our insurance pool group for cities, that did issue an advisory opinion today. We were waiting for the Attorney General for Washington State to do so. They still haven't, although I'm promised that's coming. The only thing you have to be aware of is that if you're going to remove an entire encampment, you have to give them 3 days notice before you do that. That's what they're advising. I don't know if that's actually required or not. And you still have to observe someone's personal property, meaning that if they're camping and it's their tent and their personal possessions, you have to catalog that and hold that for them for a period of time. If you're removing them,
Oh. So taking possession of their
their personal
belongings.
property, yeah.
Okay, so that's the beginning of a discussion on that one, but at one point, we had to have a place to let them go if we were to evict them from somewhere.
The Martin case, the Ninth Circuit is what was overruled, and that required that if you don't have enough adequate bedding or homeless shelter in your area, you had to permit or allow encampments in public parks or public places in the city. That's been struck down.
Okay.
So now you don't have to require that.
Okay, because there's definitely concerns with city parks and encampments, and we've got kids out there in the skate park at night. We've got people sometimes enjoying a family picnic at night, and if there's public encampments, they may feel uncomfortable, and we don't want that either. At the same time, we don't want to necessarily throw people out in the streets, but our parks are for certain purposes, and it's not a public encampment.
And plus also the parks close. It's supposed to be, closed from, what is it?
Sunset.
Dawn to dusk or dusk to dawn? Which is it? I forget.
Well,
Sunset to morning when the sun comes up overnight. God. But so they shouldn't be in there anyway, just based on that, but.
And that being said, we are more than likely going to permit camping in our park for a weekend coming up because the Mid-Valley Swim League is going to be conducting their championship meet at our pool. And they bring in their trailers, they come in, each community has an area designated for them, but they pay for that, they get permits for that. That is a special event that will be happening. And if you've never attended any one of those championship swim meets, I encourage you to do so.
Bleachers now too.
It's a lot of work for the volunteers, as Mr. Dolan and I can both attest, but nevertheless, it's a fun event for the kids. So if you get a chance to go, it's a brilliant time. All right, well, I'm glad to be up and aware of that the encampments can be moved on. And if there's more that we can learn about that, then please don't be shy about bringing that to our attention. All right, items from council members, mayor's appointments for boards and commissions. Until we get the contract worked out for our incoming city manager, I'm not really looking at applications for boards and commissions. I haven't really called the committee together for that, because it also happens to be the same people involved in the committee for putting together the contract, and we've got a week and a half to do that. So that's what our focus is going to be on for the next few days. So anybody who's waiting on that will come up in a later meeting. Other reports, announcements, and or questions by council, and we're going to start at the far end of the table, and Ms. Vasquez.
Yeah, so I just have one announcement. So it's going to be an event named Love in Action. It's going to take place in, Central Park, and it's going to be Sunday, August 11th at 12 p.m. New Life Church is going to be hosting it, and a lot of churches will be gathering, and it's going to be a community event where we're going to be offering free haircuts to all the children, some free food for the families, and it's going to be a huge community effort to bring in some positivity and just some new information and resources for our community. I will be bringing in a flyer, and I'll show that to you guys in the next upcoming meeting.
Thank you. Ms. Fausto.
Just, I guess going off of events, is it a national night out coming up?
Yeah.
August 2nd from 4 to 7 at Central Park.
Okay, yeah, just kind of thought of that, yeah. But you know what? For the first time ever, I have nothing to report. What?
Mr. Deputy Mayor.
LTAC, so we met a couple of weeks ago. A couple of weeks ago, we had a successful meeting, productive meeting, and we will shortly be releasing the RFP. So, people could start applying for those, start filling those applications up. We have set dates. I should have written the dates, but they'll be online. Hopefully, Ms. Horner could get on that this week. I think she said she was gonna post it. Besides that, we still have one vacant. I know Mr. Mayor just said that we're not gonna be looking at the applications, but I still encourage people to wants to serve to apply. And also, I'd like to talk maybe the subcommittee of community development to meet. I think that's the only subcommittee that hasn't met. I have been getting a lot of
We have met.
calls
I'm sorry.
for community development.
We have met.
Yeah.
Have
We
you?
met when
Okay.
Trevor was still here. We were out of economic development director, so I think we're finding it kind of difficult to convene right now, but
We did meet on the first Tuesday of July.
Gotcha. So I've been getting a lot of calls from contractors and just project managers that are kind of concerned with Mr. Martin not being here and our planner not being here. So I don't know, maybe if there's a way to address those concerns, on our website or whatever we're planning on doing, with not having those two positions filled up. I just wouldn't like those contractors to feel like, scared that their projects are gonna either be delayed by a long time or, go away. Just, kind of communicate that across to everybody. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you, sir. Ms. Hart?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to thank Mr. Sanchez, the Director of Public Works, for our recent Public Works Committee meeting. He made a very thorough outline and in-depth, give us so much knowledge about what public works involves. And for some of us, it was just revolutionary. The thing about public works is, we know we have a police department, we know that we have a fire department, but public works includes everything else, from your water, your sewer, the streets, down to parks, the facilities, the buildings of the city. All of those things come into play when you talk about public works. And it was really, I just want to say that you and your staff, when you gave the program to those of us who are on that committee, we really appreciated your efforts to make us understand what it's all about. And it was really good, I thought, for all of us. I mean, I've gathered by osmosis a lot of different information about public works, but even I learned a bunch of stuff that I was not familiar with. So thank you very much for that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so for my part, we've had a real busy couple of weeks, and not just in national news, but in the city of Sunnyside news when we hired a new city manager. I have received many phone calls, emails, texts, conversations indicating from various parts of the state that we did make the right choice. So many people complimented us on our choice. And so I feel very comfortable. I've been in I've had several conversations with Mr. Gonzalez over the last few days, and his excitement has not waned at all. He's enthusiastic. He's coming into town this week to meet with other officials in town, and he's excited about that. There's an opportunity for he and I to meet. We need to start going over what his expectations of the contract is. Our contract committee is going to be meeting tomorrow night, the three of us, and then we will be bringing that information before council. Council need to call a special meeting to approve this contract before the 1st of August so that he can get started on August 1. And that is my goal. I kind of gave it as a soft date, but I think that is one that works out well for everyone. I think Mr. Gonzalez would actually like to start work tomorrow, and Chief Lehman would like for him to start work tomorrow. So I don't want to delay things any longer than that. I think for everybody involved, I think that's the best way to go. So that's going to require a little bit of work from us as council members. But we had our initial meeting with the contract. Ms. Hart's done a little bit of transcribing work for us, and we will go from there. And we'll present that information to council just as soon as we have it for council approval. Keep in mind that this contract cannot be approved by anybody other than all of council. This is not something that this committee is going to do. It's not an executive decision. It will happen. It's all of us who have to approve that. So rest assured, you're going to know all the details and have plenty of opportunity to ask questions, but it will be an executive session. Ms. Vasquez, you had a question?
Yeah, so I have one more comment. Speaking of public works, so I was driving on 13th Street and this comment has already been brought up as well. And 13th Street heading towards Yakima Valley Highway on the right side, right behind China Walk, the parking, the diagonal parking, the lines are very, very long. And I was driving by and there's a long line of cars and we're all on top of the parking and it just looks very confusing and not nice. And we're going to be having a whole bunch of visitors coming into our town, and that would be maybe something that we could look into. I know that's a lot of work, but and then even going back to what Brenton Moore brought up, the Edison and Fifth Street by Rydell, I've driven on that road and it is very, very dangerous. I've had to multiple times I've had to stop in the middle of the road and double check about 5 times each side before I make a turn or before I go straight, and it is very dangerous. So if we could just try to see what we can do there and also on 13th Street with those big lines. Maybe we could change it to parallel parking. That would save up some space.
Okay, just to understand, 13th and what was the other?
13th heading towards Yakima Valley Highway, like right where Ace is.
I think 6th. She's
Oh, 6th Street. Oh my gosh, yeah, 6th
Yeah.
Street. I'm so sorry.
That was kind of,
6th Street. So where they remodeled that whole road. Yes. Yes.
All right, upcoming council meetings. Madam City Clerk.
funny, those are changed some.
All right, so our next meeting, study session and regular meeting is on August 12th. And we don't have anything on there yet. We have another special meeting on August 19th for the police and fire swearing in ceremony. And that'll be at the community center. And did you guys decide, is it at 6? Chief?
6 is fine. No, is there any objection to 6 p.m. for that?
No, that sounds good.
Okay.
And then a special meeting for a budget retreat on August 24th. And that is a Saturday. And August 26th. Would you like me to put fireworks on the 26th just to keep it as a placeholder or no?
I would think so.
I think that, yeah,
We should.
Yeah.
that puts a little pressure on the Public Safety Committee to meet, but I think that would be, I think we want to do that. I don't think we want to let this get away from us.
And that's all we have.
Very good. And council members, I would encourage you to go to the swearing in ceremony. They are a lot of fun. It means a lot to our officers and their families. And I know as mayor, I enjoy it immensely to see these pinning ceremonies and the swearing in and all of that. It's just really cool. So I encourage you to be there.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
do we want to add the special meeting? We want to talk about it right now to add the special meeting for the contract?
We can add a special meeting. It would be next week and it would have to be either, I'm going to guess Monday or Tuesday.
Monday, the 29th. That way we're all on the same table.
No, that's not a bad idea. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah,
That holds our feet to the fire to get that accomplished.
Yeah.
Is there any objection, council members, to next week, Monday?
Next week, Monday. What day is that?
It's a
29th.
Monday. 29th.
Or what date? Oh, the
What
time.
time?
Monday.
And time, what's preferred time? We could meet at 6 or we can meet at 5:30?
I'm okay with 5:30.
We do 6.
6?
Prefer 6?
6.
It is.
Let's do
Okay.
6.
As difficult as it was for me to get here at 5:30 today, I think 6 o'clock is going to work better for me as well. So let's call it 6 o'clock at council chambers. It will be an executive session. But we will come out of executive session to make the vote and hopefully approve the contract.
Oh, okay.
So 7:29. I don't know. I'm writing it on here. I'm gonna give this
Okay.
away.
I have to put it in my phone later.
All right. Thank you for that, Mr. Deputy Mayor. That was a good catch. All right, so any items that need to be added to the agenda, please make sure that they are brought to either my attention or the clerk's attention on the Wednesday, no later than the Wednesday before the meeting, so that that can be posted and published at the right time. Item 5, items from department heads, Mr. City Manager.
Start on the end with Mr. Morrow.
Good evening, City Council. What I have before you tonight is just a recruitment report for the month of July, or at least what we've gotten through to this point. We've had 14 interviews for 4 positions. That includes corrections officer, recreation coordinator, court clerk, and stormwater maintenance worker. In July, we filled 1 position, which was a maintenance worker in the water department. And currently we have 6 vacancies in the city, not including at the police department. Those 6 positions are community and economic development director, our planner, 1 corrections officer, 1 communications officer, a development technician, and a technology support assistant. The first 2 positions of community and economic development director and planner, those are both active recruitments currently on our website. The corrections officer position, that is in the background review phase of the recruitment, as well as the communications officer, also in the background review. And the development technician, we are in the development of the recruitment, so that can go out here shortly.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, from Mike, sorry. And from IT, we have a log of 85 tickets. We are about 90% of the way through our duo setup as for security and stuff. And we are about halfway through the network refresh for the network all around the whole city. So.
Can
You may ask a question, absolutely.
a question, the crash, the CrowdStrike thing that happened, what was that, Friday?
Yes, ma'am.
Were we impacted?
No, ma'am, not by that.
Okay.
We don't use that software. So, but we were on high alert to make sure everything was running as expected.
Oh, thank you.
Friday morning was a very early morning and Thursday night was a late night. So.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Knight.
Well, I appreciate your attentiveness on that because
Yeah.
it could have impacted us.
Yes.
There were a lot of hospitals, medical centers that were very negatively impacted by that. So
Yeah.
Shows you how fragile the whole system actually is.
Yeah.
So it's
Well,
scary.
Thanks for sending that alert out early too. So
You're welcome.
appreciated that.
Thank you.
Okay, for Public Works. Just want to update you that this week it's projected to be done with our chip seal program for the year. If everything goes right, we'll be done this week. Also wanted to share with you just up to date, starting in May, we've had 21 permits for Public Works permits, and that's it equals to $93,300 from May to now. And other than that, soccer registration right now is going on from 5 to 12-year-olds. So if you know anybody out there that wants to register, it's going on. Other than that, that's all I have.
Nothing at this time.
Chief.
So regrettably, again, I'm still without any sort of data or analytics. Really hoping that my umpteen help tickets into the software that we purchased, not our IT department, to clarify, will get some attention and maybe I can have some data for you guys next meeting, hopefully. But one thing, just a couple things to bring up real quick. Today we had a contractor finish the installation of our LED display sign that was purchased with grant funds some time ago. So if you've had a chance to drive down Edison near 8th, I encourage you to do so. Maybe wait a couple of days because there's no power to it just yet, but just the box alone is beautiful.
Looks
So
really cool.
it is very nice looking and we're very excited to get it up and running. We're just waiting on an electrician at this point, but our goal is to be able to use it for public education and then of course any other community announcements from the fire department or any other city department. So pretty exciting for us. And last but not least, we were able to give our last final offer to our last career vacancy. So we've brought on 2 the beginning of July with the anticipated start date of this next individual, August 1st. So very excited to get them onboarded. And I believe I sent out an email introducing the first 2. And once I get a good photo of the third individual, that'll get sent out citywide. So they're no longer strangers. So that's all I have.
You.
Sorry. Okay, licensing, yard sale permits, and these are all from May 1st till current. Right now too. Last time I reported, I think it was July or in June, but it was from January 1st. So our licensing,
Excuse me, sir, can you speak a little
Okay,
into the
that better?
mic a little better? Yeah. Having you.
our yard sale business licensing, which also included the fireworks permits, we're at 456 of them from May 1st to current. Building permits, we've issued 95 permits and 251 inspections have been completed. Code enforcement, where May 1st to current is 96 records. You know, we have made some changes there now. They're doing more reporting in here. They were out doing the work. It just wasn't being reported. That's why the numbers were low earlier in the year. So we're getting some of those worked in. So. And then it was 27 fire inspections done in that same time. So that's all I got, unless you got any questions.
Questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk?
Just want to remind you of the ribbon cutting that's happening tomorrow at the thrift store. It's at 10 a.m., I believe. And if you have any topics that I know the departments can reach out to me about topics to post on social media, but if there's anything the council would like to share, just let me know.
Thank you.
Okay, from the police department, in the last month, we've handled 858 incidents, conducted 190 traffic stops. We've had 62 arrests, 24 criminal non-traffic, 31 criminal traffic, 4 non-traffic infractions, and 30 traffic infractions. Our robberies are up slightly. However, pretty much every other category of crime is down. This year, on an average since 2019. So I have that if you guys want to look at it. But we do have National Night Out coming up August 2nd at Central Park from 4 to 7. And then on August 16th is the golf tournament and silent auction for the Police Foundation out at Black Rock.
All right, thank you. Okay, so there being no further business to come before council, and if there's no objection, we are adjourned at 8:20.
Good.
Wow.
It's good.
Record.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you for your comments.